Shalom, friends. So today I have some pretty hard-hitting but exciting news at the same time. These woods have been started being cleared. It's very exciting because we're planning on building back and digging out a pond and all this stuff. You know, starting a bit more of a homestead on the property and expanding the property out. And that requires clearing these woods, which these have been kind of sentimental to me. One of my first memories coming up here is hiking through all the woods that were on the property and finding the fern fields. I'll walk up because I think they're still around. They're back like right behind the wood line now. The wood line came almost all the way up to think about where the tractor is. Just a little bit further from that was where the wood line started. And that's kind of where, you would walk in, and then after a little while of stumbling through some conifer forest, you would eventually get to the place where you find the ferns. And let me tell you what, when I walked down there that one spring, it was beautiful. And it still is beautiful every spring, which is kind of why I'll miss these woods. Because I've done a lot in here. I've had a lot of fun in the woods. So today, I'm planning on doing an official farewell hike. This may not be like the last hike. Maybe one of my last hikes down through these woods. Before they're no longer woods and they become a cleared part of the property. So let's go ahead and go down. I'm wearing the chest cam. That's what I have on me right now, what I'm recording from. So let's go around the shrubbery and the logs. We gotta be really careful because there's things that have been brought up, like maybe snakes, wasps. So I might come down here and then suddenly catch a stray or something. I'll have to find a way to enter in here. This will be a good training grounds for Coco related to obstacles in some of these things. Have to be careful, though. This will give her like a good setting for like if a disaster strikes and then we go on a search. Like later on if I want to make her a search and rescue dog. So yeah, it's a lot. I used to free climb some of the trees around this area, so even this area has been a little special for me. But sometimes good things have to go so that even greater opportunities come. So I think it's time to find a way to climb into these woods now. Because there's just so much blowdown. It's a maze of trees. Woo! Woo! They're getting there. I made it. All right. That was something. Yeah. So you come down here, and we can see, this is where we start to get into the ferns. This is where we start to really get into the ferns. You can see they're straight. They've unfurled all the way. in the spring you could come down here and kind of like harvest the heads when they're still kind of curled up. We've got this sweet gum right here. Has been a memory, because I always find it wild that I could just free climb up there, knowing this part is like practically dead at this point. But I would come up here, I would just kind of sit, and I would take pictures of the scenery from above, of the fern fields in the woods, and it was gorgeous. So that, let's see, it looks like we got new ribbons on the trees. Go around here. You can see it right there. Also another one there. We start to exit the fern fields. We'll enter the washouts pretty soon. So as you can see, there's another ribbon. Now if you see right here, there's the spring that comes up that we found. I think it was like a couple years ago now. We found this spring, and it kind of runs, it turns into a creek. We're thinking of digging a pond like further down the area or something like that. Or I don't know the starting point, but you know, that creek goes along and merges into another creek that kind of runs down the area where we live, the general area. I come up and pick litter sometimes, and you know, the creek that you see in those videos when I'm walking through one of the roads, that's the creek that you know, our springs turning into a tiny creek merges into. So now I'm down at the washouts. There's a lot of stuff down here. Right now, we come further down. We gotta be careful where we step now, because some of this is mud. Other parts of it are solid. Look at this. Just gotta display a balance here. 1 foot in front of the other always helps. Woo! There's a spider. Old Spidey. I don't know if he likes me. This tree has a ribbon on it. I think you could see it down there. Yep. I think that's where they got the area marked. That's good stuff. So I'll just find my footing and walk down. There's a couple areas I want to show you guys before they all get cleared. Right. Woo. Especially got to be careful for the spiders. This is a memorable place for me because that's when a storm hit and did some significant amount of damage. For a second I thought that was like something I cleared something, but it's definitely not what it seems to be. So for now, I'll keep walking along these ferns. Wow. Soon we'll get to a part of our property where we'll see the creek. Duck under here. Watch out for the spiders there. think I got myself a little wet. That's fine. Go down here, there's a bunch of ribbons. And the start of our humble small creek right here. Showed you the springs earlier. Now this is where it starts to really come to a head. We'll go further down. You can see I have to be really careful of my step. I'll get the hose later for my shoes. This is how we know we're doing good. The orange is on the pink there. We've got that checked. There's an old cider out in the middle of all these strange woods. Down here, one of the things that I really, really, really loved is when I noticed all the grass down here. It's made more apparent in the fall. But you really notice this beautiful, nice standing grass. Sometimes that's really great for support when you're walking down in these washouts. If you see some of this, you know, it's partly for scenery, but also really for hiking. Like, see, this is a couple of pieces of grass that have started growing right there. This has kind of become like a marsh, almost, sort of. So we come up upon the property line, the actual property line now. Because if I go down here, if I walk a little ways, I'll show you. There is a pink ribbon right there. You can see down a little ways, just barely, you can see an orange ribbon. I'll go around, I'll find a way around to show you guys. Yeah, isn't this a beautiful part of the woods right here? One perk we get from this is when we clear, we already got some grass growing right there. So that area will have somewhat of a grassy look. I know the clearing may affect it just a little bit. So after that, there's this ribbon right here. That's an indicator of property. Now, another thing, you see where the moss is starting to grow? So, right now I know I'm on stable ground. I'm going to go over to right here. It holds me up away from all this muddy water. And things like that right there. Moss and grass. You want to find those because those root systems give you more of a solid ground to walk on than just muddy washout, if you know what I mean. So, we'll go up, and you can really, really start to see it's becoming a little bit more clearer. So what's happening is the water's running down, is being filtered through roots. It gets all the particles out, and slowly but surely, you'll see the water start to become a bit more visible. And we're just following the ribbons here. So you can see there's where most of the work's been being done. It's around that part. We'll come up. Ooh, there's not a lot of moss right there. Okay. I can see some places that are a bit more solid though. Okay. Another ribbon. So we come down a little bit more. I think it'll be about a couple feet from where I am. So I'll walk up there. You can see there's a ribbon, and there's a ribbon right in front. about right there. So we'll go. This is where we start to get introduced. Up about right about here. So we'll go to this ribbon. Yeah, the bamboo just loved what's happened over the past couple of years and just started shooting up and covering the whole creek. And so there's the ribbon. There's all this bamboo. It'll give you a little bit of a fun experience. Walk through a lot of this. Be careful with spiders, of course. Those are things in the woods you want to keep alive. I'll just exit out around right here. So yeah, there's a ton of bamboo. I'll go to show you guys the end of the creek and tree that I really loved free climbing. So let's go. I think I found a ribbon. And a little bit of a stain on the tree too. Is that stain? No, it's just a ribbon. Yeah, so let's go down. Now we passed all this bamboo, and I think the bamboo does a really great job of getting all this water to show. We'll come right about down here. This is where our small creek really starts. It's down here. You see how much more clear that water is than what it was up there? Some parts were just mud. That wasn't water. So there's one more area to show you. And then we'll go up and I'll show you a couple more things. All right, down about right here. I did one video where I was free climbing this tree right here. It's one of my favorite trees to free climb. It's right here. And I've free climbed this thing a lot. I've shown friends this thing. It's one of the coolest hollies I've found. And one of the coolest trees I've free climbed. And one of the easiest trees to free climb too, because this whole thing's just sideways. You know, other than the cedar, this was like one of the easiest to free climb. So, we get up here, and often in the spring, summer, fall, there's this lichen field you'll start to see once you get up a little ways, indicating a clean atmosphere and all this sort of stuff. It's a really great indicator. But the ground would be covered with lichen out here, and I think I see the spot where lichen would just come up. That's right. All right about here is where you get all this live moss and lichen just start to crawl. This also is like one of my favorite areas because, you know, it's just a really great spot. It's kind of an open spot in the woods too. If you like look up, you'll see that it's kind of like an opening. And there's just so much plant growth down here. Lichen growth, especially. And it was fun. Like, one of the first times I saw this, I learned about the lichen and its interesting properties and what it's made out of and what it indicates. Lichen's just so cool. This is Old Faithful. So me and my dad built this just for a hangout place. And over the years, it's kind of worn down, like maybe a little bit. But it is really, really, really held up. Like, this thing has survived some of the biggest storms. I came out here after, like, Hurricane Helene. I did those hiking videos, and I saw this thing was, like, unaffected. I thought it would at least be, like, somewhat affected, but nah. This thing really, really held up. That leads me to up in these parts of the woods. So, I learned an interesting thing about this place. Right here, you see it's got a whole bunch of tall grass growing in it. It's opening. This place used to be a place for, I think, string beans and peas. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too sure. But it's got a whole bunch of like moss, lichen, and tall grass growing throughout this specific one area and no trees. It's a big opening in these woods, and it's kind of where that path, which I'll show you this path, ends. So it's very interesting, and there's been some storm damage down here from Hurricane Helene. That's affected how this area looks. But it still retained most of its original look for me to be able to show you guys. So you come up here, and this whole area was a place I worked on ever since 2021 to get all the overgrowth out there. You can see how clear and spacious the trees are. And the wood lines ended much sooner than they did, for some places. This place has kind of maintained its original starting, ending point, depending on where you're coming from. But this trail right here was a trail that I saw ever since we moved here. And it was one of the first areas where we entered in and hiked through these woods. It was one of the first areas I toured. And I saw there's a whole bunch of wild blueberries growing here and all around this trail. And so I was inspired to come out here and just start cutting a whole bunch of trees down and overgrowth for those berries to grow. And they did, and I kind of gathered like a wild berry harvest one year. It was small and not like too much to be concerned about. And the berries were sour. They didn't taste that great. Except for like the tall bushes. Those were, I think, sparkle berries. Their flowers smelled so good compared to like the rest of them. And their berries were a little bit sweeter. So I definitely learned about the blueberry types during that time. The wild blueberry types. Especially like the huckleberries. You would eat them and you have to spit out these like these big seeds. It's not that big, but it's closer to accurate than me using like my whole hand. And you can see where trees fell, and also there was a lot of these white nests on the ground, and I learned that those were hornets and not just ants one day when I fell a tree down here and hundreds of them started swarming. Miraculously, I wasn't stung. So that leads me to the conclusion of this hike. We have toured significant areas in our woods. We have gone through almost the entirety of everything here. And before it all got cut down, there's some work that's already started to happen. But I figured it would be nice to come out here before the wood's cut down and hike here one last time.